Welcome back. So we have Brandon Owen with UB Depthstill and Tim Evers on UR Delver. For anyone who hasn't, this is their first video that they've ever watched, welcome. We are Canberra Legacy events, but we call ourselves Legs, I guess. This is our fortnightly Wednesday match stuff with 75 proxies, and it's basically find out what legacy deck you want, get hard enough into the format that you're willing to shell out the thousands of dollars, and then join the legions of eternal goers. We've been very, very fortunate today. Excuse me. Today to have the Brandon Owen of UB Depthstill. If anyone hasn't had the pleasure of versing this incredible deck, please, Brandon, can you tell us what it's all about?
Yeah, sure. So it's a deck I kind of brewed up for GP Sydney a few months back, beginning of the year actually. I'm a huge fan of Standstill, and I was getting a bit bored of playing control Standstill decks. I mean, as you typically see it in Landstill style decks. So I felt like playing a bit of Hex Mage action, bit of Dark Depths, killing my opponent as quickly as possible. So it's kind of like the Turbo Lands decks, except it's strictly blue-black, no green for the good cards. Opting instead for a bunch of cantrips and Force of Wills, a bit of permission.
Sure, just to get your combo out there as quickly as possible.
Well, yeah, I mean it's slower than most combo decks, but it's also probably more difficult to interact with. Besides, outside of Wasteland and the cards that get played in, probably 80% of decks. Outside of those, it's difficult to interact with.
We've also got Lachlan Saunders here. Say hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Would you explain to us the Tim Evers deck, UR Delver, for anyone who's not aware?
Yeah, so this is basically just like a very aggressive. This is like legacy equivalent of an aggro deck.
Sure.
It's playing a lot of one drops, so it's playing Delver of Secrets and Monastery Swiftspear and Lightning Bolts, cantrips in the form of Brainstorm, Permission in the form of Force of Will, as well as we have some two Foster Storms in the main, as well as Spell Snare, a lot of burn in the form of Burst Lightning and Fire Ice. We see the 4 Delver of Secrets. He actually doesn't actually have any Monastery Swiftspear. This looks to be more of a controlling version. So he's supplemented the Monastery Swiftspears with True Name Nemesis as a way to just get a threat. Your opponent, honestly, not a lot of decks can deal with a True Name. They're just going to be able to slam that, protect it with maybe a Force of Will if they need to, and just crunch in.
Definitely gives you a lot more game against the mid-range decks, the Death and Taxes and Sharpers.
Definitely.
Yeah. And we see here, speaking of Force of Will, I think our friend Tim looking for one in response to using a Brainstorm in response to Thoughtseize. The thing about a Brainstorm is that, I mean, if you don't got that Thoughtseize, then if you don't got that Force of Will, then you can just probably put the 2 best cards back on top.
So I'm pretty sure he actually put Force of Will back on top. Not much interest. Like, I mean, it's not a very good hand. He knows it's not a very good matchup. We've played a bunch of times before. He just sort of I don't know. He going for the more aggressive sort of hand, a couple of Lightning Bolts and a Snapcaster Mage.
It's so difficult for him to be able to interact with the combo and just straight blue-red, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually nothing main board.
Yeah, no Jace the Mind Sculptors to bounce that Merit Lage token. He really just has to, hope that he can out aggro you. And with him playing no creatures on turns 1 and 2, it's not looking good at the moment.
Yeah, I mean a pretty decent start from myself. Shortcutting a bit there, double fetch, and then searching for a Thespian stage, I believe.
Yeah.
The Dark Depths in hand, ready to go.
Yeah.
And we can see you fetching double basic here. Is that a consideration to Wasteland from Tim?
I mean, I guess. Turns out he doesn't actually play Wasteland, which is interesting for a 2-color control deck.
Definitely.
Which probably has the space for it, but I guess more interested in just being able to cast blue spells and red spells in,
I can see
succession.
here that he has Price of Progress as well, so it's funny not seeing even just a little hello from Blood Moon, but I mean, if that's the way you want to go, then that's completely fine, but Blue-Red loves Blood Moon.
With no way to power it out, it's only giving you more game against the decks that you've built your deck to be slightly better than.
Yeah, sure. So what do we think, Lachlan, what do you think Tim Evers' thinking right now? What's his game
I
plan?
think probably oh shit is one of the big things going on in his mind. You know, like you can see the tutor that Brandon's chosen to play is Tolaria West, and he can basically do nothing about that. He just has to say, sure, that's fine. You know, it's an activated ability. He has no stifles. It's not really gonna resolve. And if Brandon turns out to have the Dark Depths, there's nothing Tim can really do about it. You know, the only way the deck really has to fight the combo is by force of willing those expedition maps and force of willing those vampire hex mages, so that you never get the chance to get the combo online.
Which feels very unsatisfying.
Definitely, yeah.
To force of will an expedition map would this deck would probably be the only one that you would ever consider force of willing an
I
expedition
mean,
map.
you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, that's it. So Brandon, if you can remember, how far away do you think? Like, sorry, from here, what do you do to get that dark?
So the only thing I'm actually worried about is getting burned out here. He can definitely do it. There's Lightning Bolt in his graveyard, I think. Lightning Bolt in his hand, and he casts Snapcaster Mage here, which is why I've opted to force of will it.
Yeah, because Snapcaster here represents basically 5 points, right?
Yeah, I mean, in my turn, I untap and play the Dark Depths, but he still gets a swing in with it.
It's a spoiler alert there, buddy. Come on.
I promise it's in my hand.
And we see Tim choosing to play out the polluted delta there, even though he has that basic island in hand. Just a little bit of information leak happening here, as he's kind of resigned himself to being out of this game.
Yeah, and we missed something. Sorry, a little bit quick before that. We missed. Did you just turn that Thespian stage into basic land?
Yeah. Making it, I mean, you got to take those points, those percentage points.
Just making it kind of putting it away from being able to be wastelanded and putting it away from being able to be included in the price of progress count.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tim's just cracking the fetch because he just honestly doesn't want to draw any more lands.
He's definitely flooded out.
5 mana is not what this deck wants to hit, and just 5 mana and pass is even worse.
Yeah. I think we're pretty much done here.
Yeah,
but
looking at the hand, seeing maybe a Grim Lavamancer there, I saw. That's really not gonna achieve much. Unfortunately, little D is a little bit bigger than Grim Lavamancer can handle. Never mind the indestructibility.
Yeah, that's right. Now, usually people, when they play Dark Depths, you see a Marit Lage token. What is your consideration for using little D instead?
Just don't want to pay like the $10 or $20 or whatever it is for it. It's not. I mean, you know, it has to be foil. I think you have to get the foil version.
There's 2 versions available, both of them. So I can definitely see that is a huge consideration. Maybe contacting the artist and getting them to kind of sketch up their own copy maybe on an artist proof would be a good idea.
Utterly reasonable.
Yeah.
And then getting them to foil it.
Check who does the art for the Marit Lage token.
So we see coming into game 2 a couple of sideboarding considerations. I think I just saw a spell snare coming out. I think his probably reasoning for that is that you may not even have any 2 mana spells, and he might know about that.
I mean, I think he at least suspects that I have Vampire Hexmage in the list.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it's probably marginally better against me than Flusterstorm. But
yeah, sure. So it's very unfortunate. We have Tim Evers' sideboard list right here. We see 2 Pyroblasts, 1 red Elemental Blast, 2 Invasive Surgeries, 2 Surgical Extractions, 2 Sudden Demise, a single Pithing Needle, a 3 of Smash to Smithereens, and a 2 of Submerge. And now, Lachlan, what is your sort of what would you sideboard in?
It's not looking good for Tim here. Really, the only card that does anything is a Surgical Extraction and Submerge. I think
also the one of
Pithing Needle. But even then, like you only get to name one half. Maybe you probably want to get the Thespian stage named so that maybe you can just counter the Hexmage and that'll be enough.
I think he has a pretty high chance of actually doing that, though. I think it's a pretty reasonable reasonable way to go about it. And I mean, I definitely think he brings it in. There's
think
just
one-
so many bad cards.
Submerge seems so incredibly clunky and also just
Well-
so vulnerable if you don't have a backup counterspell, because you're gonna have to invest literal 5 mana into casting this, and this is a deck that honestly just doesn't want to have 5 lands in play. You saw what happened in game 1. He just cracked a fetch instead of playing the land out of his hand to just try and get some lands out of his deck, so he didn't draw anymore.
His deck not being very fair to him.
Yeah, Burst Lightning
I mean-
is one of those cards that it has a kicker option. This deck really doesn't want to pay it unless it's dealing 4 to the face and you're dying.
Yeah.
So submerge is free if if the opponent has a forest in play, correct?
So just for anyone who doesn't know, Submerge is an instant for 4 and blue, and it says if an opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you may cast Submerge without paying its mana cost.
So he maybe didn't realize, but I'm playing 2 or 3 abrupt case out of the board and a Bayou in the main, so this card definitely
if you
potentially
kind of get
getting me.
unlucky and draw the
Yeah.
Bayou here,
So-
you might be able to mize.
Yeah, I definitely brought in the abrupt decays. My consideration being that he can maybe tempo me out if he delays my combo.
Yeah,
Um,
completely reasonable. And also, sorry, it
Pithing
also says
Mill,
put target creature on top of its own
Yeah, sure.
library,
It's
which is
the
the main
important
part of it.
Yeah.
Dealing
Um,
permanently with the Merit Lage.
I think I can only think of elves being the correct place to bring that in, but I mean...
Well, you definitely want to bring it in against the Tarmogoyf decks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
So Jund is a matchup where definitely Submerge plays a key role. Just being able to, in response to their fetch crack, send that Tarmogoyf into the library, and
Oof.
it's going forever. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Jund definitely being a valid metagame consideration.
Mhm.
Yeah, and our own Chris Addy is often known to Jundum, but
Yeah.
he's also a big fan of blowing up people's lands and making them cry as a result.
Yeah.
So,
Which is funny because I feel like those two decks are pretty different.
well, they do play the same kind of long game aggro strategy here.
Okay,
Yeah, you can see the sideboard here. We've got surgical extractions there. We've got the needle. We've got the submerge.
Looking at the invasive surgeries.
Kind of reading if it's going to do anything.
What's
Yeah, I
invasive
think we're
surgery?
gonna
realizing it definitely
It's
does.
it's counter target sorcery spell.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you have delirium, you also get to extract all copies of that card from their hand, graveyard, and library.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
it's one of those cards. If you play it against Show and Tell or Reanimator, they're never going to use that particular Reanimate spell or the Show and Tell ever again.
Yeah, right.
And
Nice.
Which is unfortunate because
yeah, you might even be able to snag something against maybe one of the combo decks in the format.
Okay,
You know?
sure. I can see that as a definite consideration, but Brandon, you don't play a lot of sorceries, do you?
Yeah, just the cantrips and Philises.
Yeah, you can see Tim reading it, kind of thinking about it, and quickly discarding it.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
Something that's not really going to get the job done.
Yeah,
Taking out
yeah.
those ponders,
Yeah.
it'll do something, but won't do a lot. It'll kind of just thin your deck. It's like you get to play all 4 ponders at once.
Yeah, he definitely spent a lot of time wrestling with the sideboard there. I'm not really sure where he wants to be in the matchup.
Yeah.
In my
it's-
opinion, just take an aggressive stance, and
Yeah.
if I play a Hex Mage, counter that and
Yeah.
just try and kill me.
That's the great thing about this deck is that, I mean, you can and we were talking about before with the game with Nick Fennell and Chris Addy, where he was playing a Standstill, and we're thinking, it's a very emotional thing, you don't want to crack the Standstill, but with Nicholas's deck, it was, he ended up having it cracked for his opponent because he just needed to get some spells out, but your deck list is very elegant and works quite well with the Standstills, knowing that you can just play, Wasteland, Thespian Stage,
you
Dark
just
Depths.
you have a spellless combo.
Yeah.
that you
So
can
I
just
mean,
let the stand still
definitely
sit
worth bringing up at this point that I did actually verse Chris Addy on his Pox list as my last matchup. Game 3, he surgical extractioned my Dark Depths, and
Oof.
at that point I was considering conceding, but I decided that sometimes the vampires get the Hex Mages kill them, and I kept on going. Second time I considered conceding was when he ultimated Liliana of the Veil the first time, and then when he did it again, it was looking pretty bad. But I ended up taking him out with his own Mishra's Factories, copying them with Thespian Stage, and wastelanding his copies and getting there after probably a grueling 20-turn game. It was,
Mhm.
it was a
So
good time.
sometimes, if you've got the life total, then just hang around for a little
Yeah,
bit
you
longer.
can just kind of fight through it, and You can see lines you never thought you'd see yourself taking to kind of cinch the game. You can see Tim choosing mismatched art brainstorms, and you know
He actually brought that up in the.
Yeah, I mean,
This is him pointing it out.
yeah, I mean, like at some point you have to wonder how much respect someone has for the game, especially like kind of the integrity of the game.
So he's picked up a surgical extraction, which is actually really good against me with the Mox Diamonds. It's how I got my Dark Depths extracted against Pox, discarding a Dark Depths to the Mox Diamond ability and getting it before I have a chance to play the one out of my hand. So
you
so
think that
it
was
is
a mistake
definitely
in hindsight?
no, I mean it allowed me to play a turn 1 Crucible of Worlds, which eventually
Sure.
won me the game.
Yeah.
My hand was not much else, and I was not feeling too good about the matchup considering all of his Innocent Blood effects. And
The Crucible's funny because I know you have like emotional connection to Crucible as well. A Crucible land, sort of Standstill package.
yeah,
I mean, it's a great card for the deck as well, but it kind of really opens you up to just wasteland every single turn. You know, if you're not doing anything, you just wasteland.
yeah.
Like,
So the deck almost never has to do that. It's pretty unlikely, but the only reason you're doing that is against Eldrazi, really, because they're just so quick. I mean,
yeah.
you take out a couple lands and then they're kind of flailing for a while, trying to rebuild.
Yeah, if you can dodge that kind of first thought, not see a reality smasher, then
With my Force of Wills, it usually is okay. You let him play a couple of mimics and then just force the big guy.
yeah. You can see Tim does have the submerge here, but he's fighting over this map because he really kind of doesn't have a choice here. And you can see the stack being so convoluted is kind of like causing a power shake in the camera here.
He commented that he pitched his Flusterstorm there to the Force of Will.
Yeah, not expecting a fight, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of only thinking about maybe another Force of Will and pitching that Flusterstorm.
I mean,
Awkward
I think
scenario.
he'd probably still rather the Brainstorm with that fetch land active.
Yeah.
It's
And also the fact that
definitely the submerge.
the ponder, he chose to not shuffle, which meant that he was kind of locked out of cracking that fetch land because he pondered and put a land on top, ensuring that he hit his third land drop. And unfortunately, in this post-board game, where you've got a little really cast submerge, hitting those land drops is quite important. So he couldn't afford to crack that fetch and shuffle that land he knew was there away in order to maybe brainstorm, find something to fight back the Flusterstorm with. But
I feel like the submerge on 5 mana, like just even boarding it in as an act of desperation, considering how expensive it was. But I think we saw last game that it's not impossible to almost get there. Submerge would have been fantastic if he had it in his hand. You know, game 1.
And we see here he's got a fire ice in hand, which I think he's kept in as kind of it does kill a hex mage, and you know you can ice a Merit Lage, and maybe it'll give you enough time to kind of find a more permanent answer.
That's a good idea. So sorry for my naivete, but explain Fire and Ice to me.
So Fire and Ice is a split card, so you kind of get a 2-for-1 deal. You have 1 in a red, deal 2 damage divided as you choose among 2 target creatures or players.
Sure.
So you can kind of go 1 at the hex mage, 1 at you, or 1 at that guy, 1 at your face. And Ice is the other half, which costs 1 in a blue, tap target permanent, draw a card.
Okay.
And this, unlike the split cards that we've seen in Wear Tear, you can't actually fuse. Fire and Ice. We've seen in Highlander and other Turner formats quite a few fire ice fused.
Unluckily for Tim.
You just raw dogged it. You just ripped it straight off the top. Don't worry about it. No holes barred.
I have seen a game before with the turn 1 Dark Depths, turn 2 Urborg, and then casting Vampire Hexmage with the Dark Depths.
That was
it's a sad game. It's the quickest you can get out there, but I hate it.
Social Extraction, the Flusterstorm. Now this is a very kind of weird play here.
Yeah, I mean
he sees himself dead on board there, right?
No, I mean he's got the Fire and Ice in hand, so he can definitely delay his the inevitable, so to speak. and if he does get the land drops, he can deal with the Dark Depths in my graveyard with that surgical extraction, giving me
maybe
very
just-
little game.
Yeah. I think seeing your hand is another consideration as well.
Yeah,
like-
he's
Also, I believe he has a Snapcaster Mage in hand, so
oh, okay.
this surgical is kind of free.
Yeah,
Because he can
yeah.
surgical the Flusterstorm, get an idea of what's going on upstairs, get an idea of your board strategy,
Mhm.
and maybe then use the ice to delay. Then the Snapcaster surgicals takes out the rest of the Dark Depths.
Yeah.
Then the Submerge finishes it off, and it kind of. You can imagine the incredible sigh of relief that would happen if
Oh my
he
God,
knows he's
how
not going to
happy.
get depths.
Is there
Yeah.
a Snapcaster in there? Then?
Yeah.
Submerge, brainstorm. Fire.
Maybe not. Maybe he has a Snapcaster back on top with that brainstorm
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
his main
sure,
phase.
sure.
I think I saw one lurking.
Did you make that consideration, Brandon, to have the surgical extraction in your graveyard, knowing that he has a Snapcaster Mage?
Yeah,
Did it
there we go,
delay
it's a
your
Snapcaster.
did it delay your Dark Depths at all, or did you just think I may as well just play through as quickly as possible?
Well, I mean, the Hex Mage is still on the stack. I figure if it gets counted, I have the second Hex Mage. I'm not too worried about
Yeah.
much that's
And
happening.
you have the map to get the stage anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here I am stacking it in my main phase to play around Wastelands. I knew he didn't play Jace. Didn't know if he did or did not play Wastelands.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
definitely like you can't really wait until their turn to do that kind of thing because they just play Wasteland. And you're like,
I mean, I definitely opened myself up to some fringe cards. Phyrexian Metamorph is one I've lost to.
Oh my God.
That's tough.
I love it though.
I mean, it kind of doesn't solve the problem, but it doesn't answer it either.
Yeah.
Tim weighing up his options.
Yeah. It's tough here because as we were talking about before the game, he did have an option of maybe snapcastering the Fire and Ice to delay a further turn to try and find that fifth land. Just get that. Here we are, like him figuring out that he actually did leave a lightning bolt on top, and he doesn't want to draw that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he's going to crack the fetch here in response to the Fire and Ice to make sure that he doesn't draw that lightning
Oh,
bolt.
of course, because
Which is-
the ice has the cantrip on it as well.
Yeah, which
right.
is also kind of unfortunate because it takes a land out of his deck, and that's all he wants to draw. He just wants to get that land.
So he definitely doesn't want to get that lightning bolt.
And unfortunately, now that he's in this line, that Snapcaster Mage is not able. Yeah, he misses on the land here, and that Snapcaster Mage kind of is looking like it's got a flashback to Fire and Ice, so he doesn't die. Which
And
is
with
unfortunate because that leaves the Dark Depths in the deck to go get again with having the Hex Mage and having the map in play. It's pretty tough.
I definitely kind of just had everything.
Yeah,
it's-
here we
it's
go
pretty-
with the second map.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty bad for Tim at this point. I mean, he's just trying to stay alive. You know, snapping back that Fire and Ice and doing whatever he can. But with the two expedition maps out, and you've got the Vampire Hexmage in hand just taunting him,
Yeah.
he's feeling pretty worried. Yeah.
Fortunately, I didn't draw an Abrupt Decay this game.
Mm.
Or I definitely
he,
would have the
He
forest in play.
he put himself on the I've got to draw a land next turn line,
Yeah.
and so he's chosen to surgical out those Dark Depths at the end of the turn, just putting it basically all in on I have to draw a land otherwise I lose.
Yeah,
And,
it's probably right though. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you can tap it one more time and then maybe get what you need. But it's just.
We discussed this after the game as to whether or not he should take this line, and I was of the opinion that I would at least wait until I untap to get that extra information because the Snapcaster Mage doing it at the end step, attacking for 2, it's just not relevant when you're at such a high life total.
Oh yeah.
I think here Tim was explaining like why I chose this line kind of thing. He realizes the game is over at this point.
What does he have in hand?
Just Pyroblast, Smash the Smithereens, and a Submerge. It's interesting you chose to board in the Smashes as just take out that expedition map. Maybe when you don't have mana up, get that extra points of damage.
I think at some point he actually brainstorms and sees it, and is unfortunately unable to cast it at that point. I mean, obviously it wasn't relevant, but
Yeah.
definitely could have been if that submerge had popped.
Yeah, all in all, I think we can all agree that this is just a kind of a matchup where Tim is a huge dog, and unfortunately his draws were almost the opposite of what he got in game one, where he just didn't hit that fifth land drop, and apparently in the sideboard games, just crucial to hit that fifth land drop. I think we'll definitely see a change in his sideboard if he decides to play this again as a concession to the Depthstill menace.
Well, he was playing Blood Moon before. I came in last week with Ant, and I don't know, maybe he just decided to pull it out for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh, he's like, Brandon's not playing
Depthstill
don't
anymore. Expect that Depthstill. And he flies back in with the John Becker double decker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this deck's definitely just sort of built to beat Storm. A really good metagame choice, but not good in this particular matchup, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for him too, because I mean, even looking at it now, the sideboard for Tim, I mean, I see a little bit of like surgical extraction for, I suppose, maybe Storm, and I know that it wrecks Tim Fins. Yeah, that's right. So it's like you really got to work to that Canberra meta for the time being, because we have a fairly good turnout, but more or less it's the same sort of people turning up, same sort of decks. I mean, we do change a lot, having these 75 proxies available that we can just kind of choose whatever the heck we want.
Lachlan Saunders rocking up on Dragon Stomp here.
Oh my god.
Hey buddy, it wasn't Dragon Stoppy, it was Dragon Control. Featuring the card that opened in my standard showdown booster, Sorin Grim Nemesis.
Ooh.
And
definitely worth building a deck around.
Oh yes,
Definitely good tech.
Yeah, I was inspired, I was excited, I opened a Planeswalker, then browse on Twitch and I see this guy, playing it in Legacy with associated cards such as Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and I won a Haven of the Spirit Dragon as part of a Life and Loan package.
Did he also do pretty poorly with it?
No, he 4-1 the daily. He 4-1, so I was very impressed.
No, I still haven't even seen the list.
It's not a good combo matchup list. If you're interested in the list, you can tweet at Young Cardinals, and I'll hook you up with the deck list.
I'm sure lots of people will be flooding the
internet,
flooding the Twitter page once this comes out. I actually remember the game that you and I had with your deck and my Tin Fins, and man oh man, was that a short match.
It's not the combo deck, not a good matchup, honestly. The turn 1, turn 2 combo decks can be super rough, because all you got is really Force of Will and Chalice, and you got to win that die roll. That die roll is just so precious to win.
Well, I mean, after all that, I didn't even know what you were on for the whole game, which is a pretty rude thing to say to someone. But I really, really appreciate me playing my first 3 spells and then having you concede.
It's nice.
Without having
it just
to
gets
worry
things
about
done.
whipping,
You can play some Highlander.
Yeah, that's right. You play some Highlander afterwards. So I mean, for me, it was turn 1. Land, and then you go, yup, and then I went Dark Ritual, and you go, yup, and I go, and then I just put down Entomb and Shallow Grave, and then you go, okay, game 2. I wonder what he's playing. And what's going on? Is this a bit of Highlander happening right now?
Start commentating on Highlander. Yeah, so no, it
now
is.
Now we see game 4. So that's we'll cut the video short here, but thank you so much for listening, and please stay tuned, and we'll definitely show you the last match of this night's Legacy.